What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. For those of you stopping by for the first time, you see something that you like here today, please don't forget to subscribe at some point. Those of you stopping by that have been here before, welcome back to TLTG Reviews, my friends. Glad you came to see me. So as you can see, a little bit different on the setup today. I figured we'd sit down and have a little house talk. I've brought up Nautica fragrances many times on my channel, mainly in my weekly rotations, and I figured we'd go ahead and discuss some of the offerings that I have from the house and why I believe they're very difficult to beat. Great aquatic bangs for your buck. Stay tuned. So, as you can see, based off of this, I do have several of the offerings from the base line, from the Voyage line, the Aqua Rushes, the Sail collection I only have one of, but I don't have them all, but I have a good bit. And my more recent acquisition is I actually purchased a vintage gift set. So as you can see, this is the original Nautica before it was called Classic, and this is Nautica Classic. You can see the new style word Nautica here versus this is backwards and debossed into the glass to where you can read it. Let me get it to where you can see from the other side. So I will say the top note is a little spoiled on this, but the richness of the vintage version and the fullness, it's a deeper, fuller version of this one. Not a lot of people like this. It's a very masculine take on an aquatic fragrance. It's not for everybody, but it's very nostalgic for me. I absolutely love this. I do have a backup bottle of the Classic, and now I have the vintage. And this stuff lasts a bit longer. This is a good 5-6 hour fragrance, the way it used to be. I mean, this is 20 plus years old, this bottle. And I actually do have the matching aftershave that goes with it. So to me, as far as ease of wear, they're all easy to wear, but this is just a great spot to start with Nautica Classic, with the original, in my opinion, because this is what the brand started out with. Oh man, and it's what it's all about. It really is. Not everybody's going to enjoy this one though, so for an even easier to wear, fruitier take on it, I would suggest Nautica Blue. This is another one you can have sub $15 range. I will link FragranceNet below with the 35% off coupon code, because all of these minus Aqua Rush Gold and Regatta, because they're discontinued, all the rest of the, and the vintage, all the rest of these that are still in production, you can get for $15 or less for a 100 ml. I'm telling you, these are steals for aquatics. Now this has a very synthetic pineapple note. Oh man, but it smells really, really good. This was what I wore out the shower last night. Fragrances like this are a good way to dip your toe in. If you're on a severe budget, you have $10 to $15 to spend, you want something that's going to be pleasing, fruity, citrus, light, airy, easy to wear, clean, a little soapy, kind of shower gel quality. Something like Nautica Blue is going to do the trick for you, and you can get 100 ml for sub $15 range. Even at the rack stores, you can get them for around $15. See them all the time. These are very, very easy to wear fragrances. Yeah, they're very synthetic, but they get really cheap, and they're perfect for this time of year. They're great to spray right when you get out the shower. They're great when you're just running an errand or going to do some sort of outdoor event. And gym bag fragrances, things like that. When you just need to refresh yourself and smell clean, something like Nautica Blue is going to be perfect for that. And then there's another version called Nautica Blue Sail. I only have a ½ ounce of this currently. I used to have a 50 ml of this that I held on to for years and years. Oh man, and this is an even fruitier take on Nautica Blue. This is another one you can have in that $15 or less range. Great fragrance, much more fruity without the pineapple than Nautica Blue. Not one that anybody ever talks about. If you search YouTube, you'll see stuff on Nautica Blue and Nautica Voyage, but you don't see things about Nautica Blue Sail. This is probably the most underrated, least discussed from the house. And I'll tell you what, this is one that not to sleep on, because of the original series line, this is probably the best one. This is definitely my favorite outside of Classic. Classic's the most nostalgic for me. This one has some meaning for me as well, but much fruitier take is Nautica Blue Sail. So, the Voyage line, the most beloved, the most universally beloved, to say the least. So we'll start off with the original itself, Nautica Voyage. The highest selling fragrance on Amazon, everybody's favorite summer aquatic from Nautica. Oh man, that crisp green apple. There's no denying the impact of this fragrance. This is one of the most beloved cheap fragrances in the world, and for good reason. It's a decent performer even with its reformulation, because the original, the cap split right across the middle, and this was the base, whereas now the entire thing is the plastic cap. This is a fantastic fragrance. It smells, for being as cheap as it is, the crisp green apple isn't overly synthetic. Yeah, it's synthetic. It's a cheap Nautica fragrance, but it's a great fragrance, and it spawned a ton of fantastic flankers. Starting with N83, this is a mintier take on that DNA. It's mintier, it's a little bit fruitier, but that mint note's very prominent in this one. The atomizer is terrible on this bottle too, as you can see. But man, 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 that smells good, and it's got that darker gunmetal look to the cap, and even on the atomizer as well. There's another one that can be found pretty easily at the rack stores, but this is a really good one that kind of sidesteps the DNA a little bit and steps outside of the box by adding so much mint. And it's a pleasing mint. Not a natural mint, synthetic, as are all these. I'll stop repeating that it's synthetic because you get the point by now. But this is kind of a must-have if you like Nautica Voyage. You'll really enjoy N83 because it's not redundant to own any of the flankers in the line, because they take a little tinge of that original DNA and they kind of go their separate ways with it. So Nautica N83 is one that I strongly suggest checking out. Another one that you can have below $15. It's not going to smell redundant to having any of these in this collection. And then what's probably my favorite flanker from the Voyage line is Voyage Sport, as you can tell by the sprays missing from that one. This is a 50 ml. Oh man, this is a kind of has a light gingery smell to it. I haven't checked the notes on it. Definitely fresher, has a little bit of powder to it in the dry down, not much. It definitely has a sportier feel and a sportier smell to it. The name's fitting for the flanker. It absolutely runs a race with the original for which is my favorite from the Voyage line. This is, like I said, I really suggest N83, but this is kind of a guilty pleasure for me in the Nautica fragrances line as a whole, because it's one that when I first got, I bought blindly, of course, because it was so cheap. I think I paid $11 for this 50 ml. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I do. I reached for this one more than any other of the Nautica Voyages in the line. And I have a feeling before long, I'll end up having to grab a 100 ml of this as well. This is another one, like the entire Voyage line is brilliant. It's great. They're all cheap. It's not redundant to own the entire collection. They all have a different smell to them. They're not unique fragrances, but they are fantastic, fantastic cheap aquatic fragrances. And this is arguably my favorite from the Voyage line, aside from the original. And they all have a different color to the top of the cap. The last one that I have from the Voyage line is Nautica Voyage Heritage. You can see the denim starting to put in that one as well. This one's a bit creamier. Still maintains that fruity quality that the Voyage line is known for, maintains that green apple, that crispness, but this one's a bit creamier. The Heritage name, I don't know why they went that route. I didn't read any background into it. I just, at this point, I had these three and assumed, I mean, which I usually do with Nautica fragrances, that I would love this one. And I was absolutely right. This is a creamier take on that Voyage DNA. Another one, like I said, the whole line is worth owning if you're looking for some good, cheap, easy to wear aquatic fragrances. This is just a creamier take on that aquatic green apple DNA. Nautica Voyage Heritage. Don't sleep on that one. This one has the yellow top. Then there's the discontinued Nautica Regatta. I've been hoarding these last several sprays. The most irrelevant cap ever. This is a much more salty marine fragrance. The Sail line is definitely a salty line. I don't have White Sail. I never had White Sail. I had opportunities in the past to grab it and did not. This is back when I wasn't so heavy into fragrances like I am now. But this is one that, hell, I'll even waste a spray because I want to smell it. Yeah, much more salty. Really going to make you think of a sporty water event type of situation. Going out to the beach, being in the boat, sailing, which I have never done, but being in the boat, being out by the ocean, or in my case, the Gulf of Mexico, because I am on the Gulf Coast. This is absolutely going to do that for you. Once again, very synthetic, but it will take you there. It will remind you of that. If you own this fragrance, this is something that you'll think to wear if you wear a fragrance to go outdoors in those situations, even though you're going to be by water. This reminds you of that, in my opinion. It's where it takes me, because like I said, this is a saltier, more marine aquatic. So this really lives up to that sail logo, because you're going to think boat lifestyle, boat events, being in the water when you smell something like Nautica Regatta. Discontinued, not difficult to get a hold of, not mega cheap, but definitely not expensive. Worth owning, unique among the collection as far as the ones that I have or that I have had in the past, because I have had others that you don't see here today that I just never rebought, and they're just more expensive to get now because they're discontinued. But one that's always been worth checking out, in my opinion, one of my favorites, is Nautica Regatta. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the Aqua Rush line, which both of these are relatively new to the collection. These are much more fruity aquatics, which can kind of be the calling card for the house as a whole. A lot of them are fruity aquatics, but some are more citrus and marine heavy, such as the original, and then things like the Sail series, White Sail, Regatta, stuff like that. Whereas, like I said, this is much more fruity. Very, very strange bottle design. This is actually blue glass. And it's got a very strange, I say strange because you know it's plastic. It's got a brushed aluminum look to it, but it's actually plastic. And then you see the flag right there as well. One that I tend to forget that I have sometimes. Very, very good for the summer heat. Nobody talks about this one. It's a very blue fragrance. The color of the bottle is very, very fitting. And like I said, nobody talks about it. I grabbed this one at Ross for like $12 for a 100 ml from Ross Dress for Less. This is absolutely, all of these are well worth what you can get them from at discounters and rack stores. And then last but most certainly not least is Aqua Rush Gold. Has the brushed gold look with the clear glass with the blue juice. This was actually sent to me by a subscriber that found a place in Canada that had a bunch of them that was clearing them out, and he just reached out to me and asked if I'd like to have one because he knew how much I enjoyed Nautica fragrances. And I traditionally don't like to get things from subscribers, but I couldn't pass this up in this situation. And this, what's different about this one, is it has that dragon fruit note. This is completely unique to all of the Nautica fragrances that I have. This stuff is special in its own right because of that. This is the fruitiest. One of the fruitiest fragrances I own, but definitely the fruitiest Nautica fragrance that I own, because it's got a lot of citrus fruits, and then it has that prominent, very distinct dragon fruit note. Why it was discontinued, I can only assume from poor sales, but this thing's great, and it's a decent performer. It's a 5 to 6 hour fragrance with decent projection. If you see this one out there, and you can get it real cheap, this isn't gonna be redundant to anything you own unless you own other fragrances with a prominent dragon fruit note. I strongly advise grabbing this one if you see it out there, cheap. You can get them on eBay and places like that. I haven't really looked at the prices, but they're not. I don't think they're that reasonable for what you would want to pay for Nautica fragrances. You're definitely not getting this one for $15. At best, you're looking at double, which 30 is not that bad, but I haven't really seen them at that price either. It's usually higher. But Nautica Aqua Rush Gold is a very hidden gem among this house, to say the very least. Well, that was a quick discussion about all of my Nautica fragrances. Until next time, do me a real quick favor. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. I do appreciate all the feedback. I love hearing from you guys. How many of these do you have? I'm sure there's a lot of you that will probably agree with me on how easy to wear these are. They're just great, cheap aquatic fragrances. When you're in a pinch, you need a new bottle, you're on a severe budget, you cannot go wrong with Nautica fragrances. And until next time, I will say, if you get your hands on any of these, you give them a spray now, I'm very confident you'll thank me later, because I know I love them. Have a good one, guys.